Hi everyone. Ever since I stopped playing Magic, I have two decks stuck in my head that I was playing mostly for fun. I decided it's time to get them out of my head, so I'm sharing them with you. One of them is Ball Lightning Tribal, sometimes going by names such as 12 Ball and Ballbreaker. Is a deck built around Ball Lightning type of cards, 3 mana creatures that are 6/1, have trample, haste, and get sacrificed at the end step. There's also Lightning Skelemental, which can also make your opponent discard 2 cards, and GroundBreaker. So, right around the time when Modern Horizons 1 released, the Raucous version of this deck was popular for a short while. It was focused on discarding one of those on turn 1 and then reanimating them with effects like Unearth and Thunderkin Awakener, which could do it repeatedly on turn 2. However, since then Faithless Looting has been banned, so the deck lost a lot of power. Additionally, it's very soft to any kind of graveyard hate, because you're trying to mostly reanimate your balls instead of casting them. I decided to make this deck Giant, adding green, because I like big creatures, I like green, so why not? And to do this, I decided to go with Bloodbraid Elf and Collected Company. Because of those 2 cards, there's a lot of free drops, because hopefully Bloodbraid Elf cascades into one of them. Collected Company can grab 2 of those if you're lucky. A cool trick you can do with Company is that you cast it on your opponent's end step and get 2 balls. And because the way they are worded, they get sacrificed at the beginning of the end step. You're casting your Coco basically at the end of end step, so the next beginning of the end step is on your turn. So you cast Coco on your opponent's end step, you get 2 balls, they get to live through your turn, and then on your turn you cast another Coco, possibly grab 2 more balls, and swing for 24, which is a lot. So the power of the Raucous version lied in the fact that you could start getting in the damages with balls on turn 2. So to do this in green version, there are Mana Dorks, Birds of Paradise, and Ignoble Hierarch that can buff the balls with Exalted. And to make the most out of your free drops, there's also some filler free drops, like Poor Man's Ball Lightning in the form of Hell's Thunder, Land New Hellion, which can attack twice, and also Braids. So the thing with Braids is that at the end step you will get 2 triggers. One that makes the ball sacrifice itself, and the other from Braids. If you let the trigger from Braids resolve first, you will sacrifice the ball, and then opponent will have a choice to either sacrifice the creature or lose 2 life and let you draw a card, basically turning your balls into 8 damage spells that draw you a card, which is a very fine deal for me. However, those are filler cards. You could play others, such as Bonecrusher Giant, that can also be played as a shock on turn 2. Shatterskull Charger, another variation of a Poor Man's Ball Lightning. Primal Force Mage that I used to play instead of Braids, and basically it was giving your balls +3/+3, so they were swinging for 9, but it was very weak to removal. There's also Flame Shadow Conjuring if you're if you want to have fun. So whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, you pay 1 red and copy it. Copy has haste and dies at the end of turn. So 1 ball plus 1 red equals 12 damage. There's also Leyline of Combustion that has been suggested to me, but I haven't tested it. I could see it working because it would tax your opponent's life total even more with how aggressive this deck is. But who knows? Okay, so mana base for this deck is kind of tricky to make, because on turn 3 you have to have triple green, triple red, and possibly double black. So the mana base is definitely not perfect. It could be better, but I don't know how to make it better. But what I have here has been working for me just fine. There are 5 green fetch lands, Triome, 2 Stomping Grounds, Overgrown Tomb, and Blood Crypt. There's also a single forest, and the reason for this is we're playing Magus of the Moon in the sideboard, and the deck works fine with a single forest and rest mountains, because most powerful cards in the deck, Bloodbraid Elf and Collected Company, cost just a single green. You also have mana dorks, and if you side in Magus, you probably cut Braids or some number of Groundbreakers. No basic mountain, because path is nowhere to be seen, so a land that can deal some damage is fine. Some early game lands that allow you to cast your mana dorks, some mana filtering, Cavern of Souls on Elemental, and Ramunap Ruin. This land is no joke. It can help you finish games where you're just lacking a few points of damage and can't find your balls. On to the sideboard. So the sideboard is mostly free drops, aforementioned Magus of the Moon to slow down your opponent enough so you can finish them off. Anathemancer fulfills a similar role but deals damage instead, also has a nerf. There's Graveyard Hate, some damage over time fused with Graveyard Hate. You can actually get enough devotion to turn Klothys into a creature, because GroundBreaker is triple green, triple red, double red, so one good Coco and you have yourself a 4/5 creature. Rampaging Ferocidon is an option. It was there before Modern Horizons 2. I used it a lot against decks that could gain life or were going wide, but I don't think it has its place in the sideboard anymore. Against artifacts and enchantments, you can't play Reclamation Sage or any other thing that works with those cards. It's just not enough. You're going all in with Fate from History, and believe me, you need it against either Affinity, Enchantress, decks like this. Other cards are basically flex spots. You can play Orvar against Creativity, Fury against, I don't know, Swarm aggro decks or something like this, Roiling Vortex. Just be sure you're advancing your game plan, either dealing damage or slowing down your opponent. And that's it. That was Ball Lightning Tribal.